Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. It's wonderful to have all of you here with us to help celebrate the release of the 2022 Census of Agriculture. And those who are watching online, welcome as well. I'm Hubert Hamer, and I have the privilege to serve as the administrator for USDA's National Agricultural Statistics Service, and to work with a group of amazing, dedicated public servants. And I'm so proud of all of them. Our mission is to collect and disseminate data that covers virtually every aspect of U.S. agriculture. And every 5 years, we conduct the Census of Agriculture. The census is the most comprehensive and impartial data collection for agriculture, down to more than 3,000 counties, parishes, and boroughs across the United States. A project of this scale requires a true collaboration and an effort from all of you here, and we're glad that you can be here to celebrate with us today. To my NASS team, including the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture enumerators, thank you for your dedication, from questionnaire design to data collection, and finally to the data release today. Your expertise and commitment has led to another successful Census of Agriculture milestone. To our partners, many of whom are here with us today, your support with outreach and showcasing the value of NASS data continues to be a vital part of our agency's mission. And finally, to our producers, thank you for participating in the Ag Census. We recognize how valuable your time is, and our hope is that by responding, we can better understand and support you and your operations. Now I'd like to introduce the Undersecretary for Research, Education, and Economics and Chief Statistician, Dr. Shavonda Jacobs-Young. Prior to being appointed as RE Undersecretary, Dr. Jacobs-Young has been providing leadership in a variety of roles at USDA, including as Administrator of the Agricultural Research Service from 2014 to 2022. Undersecretary Jacobs-Young, it's been a privilege to work with you over the years. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your support.
Wow, all of this for you guys. Thank you, Administrator Hamer. I'm pleased to be here with you to celebrate the release of the highly anticipated 2022 Census of Agriculture data. As Undersecretary for Research, Education, and Economics and Chief Scientist of USDA, I think I just got a promotion to Chief Statistician as well. Gonna need another check. It is always a privilege to spotlight the extraordinary work of our mission area and the science, data, and research that is powering USDA and the world. It is incredible to think that when the Department of Agriculture was established over 180 years ago, one of the department's first priorities was to establish a program to collect agricultural statistics. And that led to the very first Census of Agriculture conducted in 1840. Wow. For decades, information provided through the Census of Agriculture has helped us understand American ag. You know, I can frequently be found quoting a figure from the Census of Ag from NASS's data, or from one of the many products that NASS puts out all year long in a speech, or at a meeting to illustrate and support my points and support my case, and hopefully having to correct, as I've been corrected before, some data from our ERS and NASS, but they are so critically important. In REE, we provide quality science, data, and information in support of sound policy and decision-making. Bottom line, we need data to make well-informed decisions. And the Census of Agriculture is the backbone of data collection efforts across our sector. It is easy to understand the value of the Ag Census, but I can tell you that carrying out this massive data collection effort is not easy. Years of work and planning go into each Ag Census, requiring a true team effort across the agency. In fact, preparations are well underway for the 2027 Census of Agriculture. This is a wonderful opportunity to acknowledge and thank the NASS employees for all of the work that led to the celebration today. Today, we are also fortunate to have 50 young leaders from across the United States and from as far as Hawaii, Puerto Rico, and Guam with us. Can I ask them to stand very quickly? This is an amazing cadre of undergraduate, master's, and PhD students in a broad range of disciplines, including agriculture, business, finance, environmental sciences, food safety, entomology, hydrogeophysics, and many more. They come from 16 minority-serving institutions, including our 1890 historically black colleges and universities, our 1994 land-grant tribal colleges, Hispanic-serving institutions, Alaska-serving and Native Hawaiian-serving institutions, as well as those in the insular areas. So some of them have come very far to be with us this week. Mr. Hamer, maybe there's a future USDA statistician or even a chief statistician in this group. These students are a part of USDA's Next Gen program, the historic $262.5 million investment we have made to recruit, retain, and train the diverse workforce of the future. Through this initiative, we are funding 33 projects across 24 states and insular areas, comprising more than 60 academic institutions to reshape the landscape of opportunity across the country. The Next Gen program will train more than 20,000 students for high-impact careers in food, agricultural, natural resources, and human sciences disciplines, and will allow them to explore the fields of the future and find their careers in agriculture. Administrator Hamer, congratulations. It's been a long time coming. Congratulations to you and the NASS team for another successful Ag Census. Thank you for all you do in service to U.S. agriculture.
Thank you, Undersecretary. We appreciate those kind words. Now I'm happy to introduce our 32nd Secretary of Agriculture, the Honorable Tom Vilsack. This is the second time that we've had the opportunity to work with Secretary Vilsack on the Ag Census. He's well known throughout the ag community, and I want to personally thank him for the support not only that he gives the agency, but his efforts also to promote the value of the Census of Agriculture. And his leadership, it really means a great deal to us. So I'd like for all of you to stand as I present the results of the 2022 Census of Agriculture to the Undersecretary and the Secretary of Agriculture.
Administrator, thank you very, very much. I'm just going to say this to the NASS folks. I didn't realize how difficult your bosses are. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, if I were a NASS person, this would be a day of being able to take a breath, right? I mean, you've been working for 5 years to get to this day, and then the administrator gets up here and says, and the undersecretary gets up here and says, well, we've just already started on the 2027 report. So I'm telling you, take the day. Just to take the day, take a breath, and appreciate the effort that you have undertaken. This is the 30th time the Department of Agriculture has issued its survey. And it does indeed require a tremendous amount of work. It requires a design of the survey itself, and you can tell from the size of the survey there is a lot of information that's requested. It requires really reaching out to the countryside and encouraging people to participate, to provide the information that becomes critically important to the development of the survey. It involves an analysis of the information and putting it through modeling and things of that nature to be able to reach the conclusions that are contained in the report. And there's some important data points that someone in my position will look at, and those who make policy will examine to be able to determine how best for this department and for U.S. agriculture to proceed as a result of the survey results. For example, we continue to see an aging nature of our farming community. Every census, it ticks up a year or two, and now it's at 58.1. So to the young people, if you want to see what happens when you get in a career in agriculture, you can see me here, and then you can look at my picture over here, and I'm remarkably aged. But in reality, that's why you're here today, because we recognize the importance of making the case to bright young people about the career opportunities and the chances that you all have to make a fundamental difference in agriculture and in food. We understand and appreciate that our department and the food and agriculture industry writ large has to reflect the America that it's going to serve. And that's why we've made a concerted effort with our Next Gen program to reach out in a variety of areas to encourage the brightest and best to have an experience here at USDA, or to have an internship or a fellowship or a scholarship that makes it just a little bit easier, that creates an awareness and a knowledge of what happens here at USDA. Before today, you may not have understood and appreciated the enormity of the data collection that takes place at USDA. This survey, and I'll talk about this in a few minutes, looks at the amount of land that is in farming. And today is an interesting day because in addition to that being launched, our Economic Research Service, ERS, puts out a chart every day. And they publish it, and I always look at it because it's a really interesting feature of ERS. And today they are charting the productivity of American agriculture. And it is a remarkable story of how we have significantly increased productivity, a threefold increase since 1948, without a significant increase in inputs. In other words, the inputs in terms of labor and so forth are relatively the same, but the output is 3 times what it was. It's technology, it's science, it's the efficiency and the awareness of our farmers and ranchers of how to basically produce. It's an amazing story, and it's contained in documents like this, if you look for it. That's why these documents are so important. There will be people in universities that will pore over this information. There will be people in agribusiness that will look at this information and try to make decisions about the future of their company or the technology or the research. But as a secretary, I want to focus on a couple of data points in particular, because I'm concerned about the state of agriculture and food production in this country. And here's why I'm concerned. You ask the question, how many farms are there in the United States? And while we have a fairly liberal definition of what a farm constitutes for the purpose of this survey, if you sell more than $1,000 of product, you qualify as a farm. And there are big farms and small farms, but you qualify as a farm. And this survey makes an effort to try to quantify the number of farms in the U.S. It also makes an effort to try to quantify the amount of farmland that's in production. And the hope would be that we would continue to encourage people to get in and remain in the farming business, and that we would be able to preserve our farmland. But survey after survey continues to show a decline in the number of farms and in the farmland. The amount of farm decline is significant. It's particularly significant in this survey. What you're going to find is, and I can talk about this now, yeah. It's the beauty of it. In 2017, when we did the survey, there were 2,042,220 farms. Today, the survey reports we have 1,900,487 farms. So doing a little quick math, that's 142,000 fewer farms in 5 years. In 5 years. The survey tells us that in 2017, we had almost, a little over 900 million acres of land in farming. 5 years later, we have 880 million acres. So we've lost 20 million acres. I want to give you a sense of how many acres that is. That's every New England state, with the exception of Connecticut, in 5 years. I want to give you a sense of how many farms that is. I've been focusing on this issue for the last 4 or 5 months because I ran across a report done by Secretary of Agriculture Bob Bergland in 1981. And he was expressing concern about the direction of agriculture because we had changed the method of support, a direction of support for American agriculture. It was important for us to continue to increase productivity. And we moved away from a kind of a supply management system where it was established during the New Deal to try to stabilize farm prices and farm income to a more market orientation, a more productivity-focused orientation. And American agriculture, as I mentioned, responded beautifully, did an amazing, tremendous job. But Secretary Bergland was concerned in 1981 as he was leaving this job about the impact on the number of farms and the impact on losing farms will have on small communities and rural places. He just issued a warning. Well, if you look at the number of farms that were in existence when he issued that warning and compare it to today, we've lost 535,000 farms. Now that's every farm today in the following states: in North Dakota and South Dakota, in Minnesota and Wisconsin, in Illinois and Iowa, in Nebraska and Oklahoma, and Missouri and Colorado. This survey, in addition to all the amazing work and data that it contains, is a wake-up call. This survey is essentially telling us, asking the critical question of whether as a country, are we okay with losing that many farms? Are we okay with losing that much farmland? Or is there a better way? That's the importance of this survey. It allows us to take a snapshot in time, allows us to compare what has occurred over the 5-year period, and begin to ask ourselves questions about the policy formation and the direction that we need to take in order to correct or deal with some of the challenges that the data presents. Now, fortunately, we've begun that process, and this survey reinforces some of the steps that we've begun to take. Rather than focusing solely on productivity, as important as that is, it's important as well to create new ways for farmers to make a living. What's interesting in this survey is it will tell you that a significant percentage, in fact, the majority of farmers in this country require off-farm income in addition to their farm income in order to keep the farm. That's essentially saying that they need two sources, one on the farm, one off the farm. But isn't there a better way? Isn't there a better way of taking that farm and asking the question, how can we create the farm, not the farmer, but the farm, capable of creating multiple revenue streams? And that's why it's important for us to invest in climate-smart agriculture, because that creates an opportunity for farms to qualify potentially for ecosystem service market credits, which is cash coming into the farm for environmental results that can occur only on the farm. The farm then creates a second stream of income. That's why it's important for us to continue to promote the notion of bioproduct production, the ability to transition agricultural waste that has little value or no value, or in some cases can be a challenge for some farming operations, and converting it into its own commodity and transitioning into sustainable aviation fuel or a wide variety of bioproducts that can replace our over-reliance on fossil fuel-based and petroleum-based products. Or the notion that by selling directly to a consumer, instead of through a very extensive and sometimes expensive supply chain, the farmer can actually get a better deal. Every time we go to a grocery store, our statisticians tell us today that about a little bit less than 15 cents of every food dollar that's spent at the grocery store ends up with the farmer. By the time the farmer pays for the production of that product, he or she's got about 7 cents. Can we create a better deal with direct-to-consumer opportunities? This survey talks about farmers beginning to embrace, and we're seeing an increase in the number of farmers understanding that dynamic. So I really appreciate the hard work that went into this survey. I appreciate the farmers, the over 1 million farmers who spent the time and had the confidence that in responding to this survey, they would be moving the agriculture and food industry forward. They spent the time to respond so that we would have a survey that is rich in data and information. But the question now is not just what the researchers will do with this, not just what the statisticians will do with this, not just what the media will do with this, or those that are curious will do with this data, but what will policymakers, what will this department, what will our friends in Congress do with this information? What should they do? My hope is that what we do, particularly for these young people who are here, is we send a strong message that we think there is an opportunity, if they will join with us, in creating a different model, one that acknowledges and recognizes the importance of production agriculture and certainly acknowledges the significant investment people have made in very large farming operations, but one that also sends a message of hope and opportunity out to smaller and mid-sized operators by giving them multiple sources of revenue coming in from the farm and not requiring them to work essentially a second full-time job. Why is that important beyond agriculture? Because if you in fact can preserve those small and mid-sized farming operations, you preserve the ability of those families to live, to work, and raise their children in the small towns. Those kids will go to the small town school, which will prevent the necessity of constant mergers of rural schools. The small business owner who is in need of customers will obviously have more customers. The small town hospital won't have to beg to get a physician, won't have to be concerned about it being constrained to a clinic because it'll have sufficient population to support a small town hospital. And why is that important? Because it's necessary for this country and its defense to continue to encourage small town viability. Because a disproportionate number of our military come from those small towns. And the reason they do, I believe, is that there's an ethic and there's a value system in those small towns by people who work the land, who understand intuitively that you can't keep taking from the land, you have to give something back. You have to replenish it from time to time. And those who grow up around that value system understand and appreciate a country that provides enormous freedom and liberty requires us to give something back as well. And so many, many young people go into service. Many, many young people in those small towns participate in volunteer service. They understand the sense of community. So this survey isn't just about agriculture. It's a map, it's a guide to a better and more hopeful future. And the young people who are here today, the responsibility and the obligation isn't just mine. It isn't just the undersecretaries or the administrators. It's yours. It's yours. That's why you're here, because we want you to take up that responsibility. We want you to understand the magnitude and the significance of the opportunity. So this is an important day to celebrate our NAS colleagues for the amazing work that they've done. Again, a great debt of gratitude to all those folks who've worked for the last 5 years on making this day happen. But I sincerely hope that we take this information very seriously, and that we understand that it need not be that every 5 years we report fewer farms and less farmland. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Undersecretary, we really appreciate you being here. We appreciate your support, your actions in supporting all of our estimation program at NAS. As you know, we disseminate many, many reports, hundreds of reports every year, and reports going out every day. A couple of things here for all of our guests. We really appreciate you being here, your support during the Census Ag activities. We have refreshments for you in the back of the room. For all of the NAS employees, we're going to ask you to come up to have a photo op with the secretary and the undersecretary. So we're moving very quickly. We'll ask the NAS staff to come up, our visitors to go back and be treated to refreshments as we prepare to come back and join you in just a few minutes. So thank you very much.
We move this. Do you mind holding on to that?